And action. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Action Podcast. We are on episode 59 today. No, excuse me, I'm sorry, episode 60 today.
Wow.
Yeah, we did 60 of these bad boys. And we only got one movie review, and it is...
Oh, how the time flies.
Yeah, Fast X. We're actually, Pete, we're pretty much almost at our year anniversary, so that's pretty impressive.
About to hit season 2.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's next week is their season 2 because Top Gun was like the end of May, so Memorial Day
Right.
week.
Yay.
So, yeah. So today we're gonna be talking about Fast X. This is the 10th installment of the Fast and the Furious franchise, and big budget, $350 million, and just a quick box office update. I believe, well, I know it did 67 million domestically, which is slightly underwhelming. However, worldwide, I believe it did 319 is the number I last saw. Yeah,
that's incredible.
318 and change opening weekend. So, but again, with your budget 340, it'll definitely make its money. This movie is now more of an international sensation than it is a domestic sensation, and we'll talk about that, why that is, because 67 million, it's not terrible, but with your budget 340 it is. But again, they're playing on they're hoping for the international market, and there's a reason, because I think the American audiences are a little up to speed on what these films are good at and what they lack. And I think our review will help you with that.
Shed a little light on maybe some of those questions.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in regards to this film. I'll just say quickly, and then Pete will get into what your things are. I would say very quickly, if you're into these films, I think this film has enough that you definitely will want to continue to see these. If you haven't seen these films, Pete will be able to give you that impression, since he has not seen any of them yet. I've seen, I think, all of them except for Tokyo Drift. And very briefly, I think this film is just one of those, like, I don't have a bad time when I'm there. But there's always at least one or two plus moments where, you almost laugh, because it's just suspension of belief, because it's just like, oh, okay. I mean, come on. It's almost cartoonish on
right.
And, I think that's, they've kind of known for this. Every movie at this point has one or two moments where it's just like, okay. I mean, most people would be torn in half or mauled by machinery. But anyways, let's get into Pete. Let's get into your thoughts.
That's sort of my take on it, because being somebody that's never seen a Fast and the Furious movie, and I never had any desire to, but since we started this podcast, this was the first movie that has popped up within our sort of tenure, and this is the 10th film, so there's really not a lot that you can do with a 10th film in a franchise that either A, hasn't already been done before, or B, you've elevated to the point of just ridiculousness, right? Like, this is just and who knows if it's even ending. I don't know the storyline. I don't know basically everything.
Spoiler alert, it's not ending. They've already announced at least one more film, but I've heard they're trying to wrap it up in 2. The studio has already asked for a second.
That's crazy. So I understand the hype about the franchise itself. I can see how people got into it. I mean, it spawned so many things in real world life, people racing and souping up your cars and making your car like the coolest thing ever. And it really did sort of elevate a action with vehicles genre, right? Like, I understand the appeal.
Yeah.
For me, I think I've realized after watching this movie that I might be a bit of a movie snob in a way,
Yeah.
because I'm I watched this movie twice. Um
Wow.
and because I just really wanted to make sure that I really was fair with my evaluation of it. And again, I'm not, forgive my French, I'm not shitting on this franchise or this movie. It's just not a movie that I can really relate to. This movie specifically, so coming in blind, if I'm going to evaluate this movie was so, everything was jumbled and thrown together, and every 2 seconds something new was popping up to the point where it was like, 1 second Pete Davidson's there. Like, I don't care about Pete Davidson. I don't know who the character is. He added nothing to
That
things.
was his first time he's in this. So yeah, that was
Great, fantastic. Charlize throws up all of a sudden, and then I don't see her until 40 minutes in, and then she pops up again, and then I don't see her again, and then all of a sudden Helen Mirren shows up out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, wow, she's just standing there overlooking, and you better hurry up and hide. And then next thing I know, Brie Larson shows up, and I'm like, oh my god, Captain Marvel, this is amazing. And then she kind of helps Michelle Rodriguez, and then they go away forever. And then all of a sudden, there's Jason Momoa, who I'm not, and John Cena just pops up out of nowhere and says, I'm gonna take your kid, I'm the uncle. And then I mean, there's nothing substantial about anything. Now, the positives of this film are that, as ridiculous as they are, I mean, the action sequences with the cars are, I mean, listen, you want to go Raiders of the Lost Ark with like 50 steroid shots later, great, because that's what the opening sequence is, right? Big
yeah.
giant bomb ball that destroys Rome. And there's ridiculous things like Michelle Rodriguez like coming to a halt, Mission Impossible style, and like hopping over like things with a motorcycle that is just physically absolutely impossible unless I'm not up on the things that you can do on motorcycles. But I will say that
I mean,
Jason
look, I think you can do it on a motorcycle, but like to do it at the speed you're doing and do that as a reaction,
as a
it
reaction, give me
yeah,
a break.
like
It,
no,
it
you can do
just
that as a trick. You couldn't do that as a reaction.
it was just ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah,
Jason Momoa, like I can appreciate, even though my wife like adores this guy and this is like her number one dude, like
yeah,
if Jason Momoa said, I will be with you, she would kick me to the curb without even thinking about it.
yeah. If he
Um,
has to be my brother, I would do the same.
right. And obviously, duh. But, Jason Momoa has been sort of encapsulated within a certain genre. Like if it's not Aquaman, it's something that is like, Vikings, Frontiers, something where he's got to be just long haired and dirty and ripped and, battling the elements as well. This was a real opportunity for him. And I think that he was actually the shining
I
spot
would
of
agree.
this film,
I would agree.
where we got to see something that was very playful, and we got to see Jason Momoa actually approach a villain like we got to see growing up, the Hans Grubers, the
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like we got to see a villain actually be something different than what an actual villain is supposed to be, right? And so
yeah,
in that sense, like the painting the toenails of like the dead people, it's just like
yeah,
it's so ridiculous, but he is so in character that I really, really appreciated his character alone. I
yeah.
didn't like Vin. I don't like Vin Diesel as a lead. I don't like that. He doesn't say more than 3 words at a time. Um, I mean, Michelle Rodriguez, who I loved in Dungeons and Dragons, because I saw another part of her acting. I didn't see anything here. And then again, you just get this barrage of stars every 2 seconds that there's never any sort of,
Yeah.
you can't take a breath. And maybe that's the point. And so as I watched it 2 times, maybe that's the point of these movies. Because again, I haven't seen any of these things. But maybe that's the point of these movies where it's like maybe you're not supposed to relax, maybe you're not supposed to get into a groove about stuff, but
No, you're not. It's
it
just
just
a 100% thrill ride.
but it wasn't that thrilling. That's at the end of the day, because of how ridiculous it was, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, is Vin Diesel? I mean, Vin Diesel jumps off a bridge, hits a
Yeah.
crane, it turns around, he goes flying, slams into a wall, somehow lands, and is able to outlast this nuclear blast. Everyone else dies. I mean, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, I'm a movie snob, and I'm happy to say it. Um, However, I know that Fast and the Furious fans will probably enjoy themselves with this film. I did not, and I will not see 11 and 12.
Well, in the theaters, well, you are if it's part of our
If it's part of
podcast.
the podcast. I'll suffer through it, but I'm gonna
Um,
have the same review. I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna get on for Fast and Furious 11. I'm gonna go see May 23rd, 2023's podcast. Same review. Go.
no, it is because I mean, like, I probably have the same review as the last one. Like, again, it's like it is like you're not bored. You know, what I mean, like I saw a later showing
No,
and I'm
you're
awake.
not
Like, it
bored.
keeps you awake. It is just like pure adrenaline, but it's not. It is fantastical adrenaline, not like like a thrilling like we. But what did we just talk about? Hypnotic, right? Like hypnotic is thrilling in a good way, and it's believable, and it's like, man, you can see yourself in these situations. This movie is again just a pure suspension of belief, because there's zero chance that any of this would happen. Everybody like these are one of those like what's those honest trailers or whatever. Like the movie would end
Yeah,
the first minute because everybody would die in a car accident, right? Like
right.
again, like
Vin Diesel would
some
have been dead within the first 12 minutes of this movie.
yeah, I mean some of the things, yeah, it was just absolutely ridiculous. And this is what always kind of again, like the first one, if you ever watched the first one's actually a good film. Like it's practical. Um, but you know, and then the second one was still more practical and cool. They a little bit probably like maybe one scene where it's like, okay, but for the most part, it was good. It was like almost very bad boyish, you know, like
Hmm.
but see, like the difference between Bad Boys 2, I think is a good comp versus this is Michael Bay is really dropping cars. And I mean, yes, there's some visual effects, but like it's actually happened on that stretch of road, right? That big car chase, and cars are
Right.
blowing up, and they're everything they do, they really do it. And I think that's where ultimately this franchise, and this is why I think domestically it doesn't do that great, is because American audiences have typically already seen a film that has done it the right way, again, like a Bad Boys 2. I don't have another comp, but
But they've also seen this movie nine other times, right?
right. And that's why they keep introducing another great actor. You know, like Jason Momoa is what makes this episode fresh. And he's funny. I agree with you. He's a
He's
great
so
villain.
funny.
He's a
He's
great
really
villain in this,
funny.
and he was entertaining. But I agree, like
And I don't even know if he died at the end. Like, did he die? Did he live? Like, I don't even know. Like, the ending is so unclear to me.
no, he didn't.
Maybe it's because I was so uninterested. I don't
No,
know.
the movie, we don't know. The movie literally just it's a continuation.
Yeah, it just like stops. And so,
Yeah.
being the first time audience member, I'm watching a movie like this and I'm thinking this is ridiculous. And then it ends, and I was like, what? Like, it didn't
Yeah.
even end. Like, it didn't even end. And
No,
so
I know.
now I'm forced to go see another one of these. It's like
Yeah.
it just sucked me in, even though not in a good way. Like, it's not
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I got to go see another one of these because it was so amazing, but whatever.
But I think, but again, and again, we'll find out after next week, when like the total numbers. But this is why again they keep pumping out more, and their formula, which is it's I don't want to call it a successful formula, because I think when it comes to filmmaking, it's not a good formula. But you know, they just bring in more star actors. Like think about how many star actors are in this one. And the funny thing is, like the best actors, like the main actor or the main characters, excuse me, are all the lowest actors. Like you're saying, like Brie Larson. it has a small bit. Charlize Theron. I mean, Jason Momoa has
Jason
pretty cool.
Statham has
Jason
like 2 minutes.
Statham.
Helen Mirren has
Yeah,
a
and
who's
they've
the
all been.
greatest out
Yeah,
of this entire cast. She's like the best.
she
She's
and
got a
they've been in.
minute of screen time.
Yeah, they've been in the other episodes. Like that's
Yeah.
so this one was kind of like a poor man's Avengers Endgame, Infinity
But
War, where it's like you get to see all the characters kind of back in the same universe again, and they're bringing everybody back together, and it's and
but
they're all
there were also so many like holes, and I won't get into the many different examples of it, but like for example when the Asian guy eats Pete Davidson's muffin and starts tripping, like he starts tripping hard, and then the next scene he's leading them down this path and he's going to go deal with an issue and is not
yeah,
tripping at all. Like I
that
mean
was like that didn't make any sense.
there were so many different like little tiny things throughout the movie where it's like they introduce something and then they completely take it away,
Yeah,
where you can't even like as like look, it's a successful franchise in that they've made 10 of them. So
yeah.
there's obviously some sort of formula that works with this, right? Like there's a reason why they've made 10 of these because they're all
Well, let me
billionaires.
finish my point. You never let me finish my point. But the
Go ahead.
reason why it is
Okay.
successful is because it no longer relies on the domestic market, because the
Right.
domestic market is like you, and like it's too smart, because it's like you're saying,
Thank you.
we're like we already know, like this is not a great film. And so some people will see it just to see it, like we did, but there's a lot of people that are just like, yeah, I'm good, I don't need to see this isn't going to add anything, and it's just not believable. But the international market, who is they're newer moviegoers, are going to continue to see it, like China, who is newer to the market. They 80 million, it did better in China than it did here, you know what I mean? And that's why this is quote unquote successful, is because it's now relying on these popcorn audiences that aren't sophisticated, and we're too sophisticated for a film like this.
But
And
Asians in general, this is, I'm not generalizing, even though I just said in general, but there is a huge love for automobiles that are super fast and that you suit them up and you add stuff to them and make them like really
yeah,
cool and flashy and amazing. So I have no doubt that in Asia specifically, China, fine, that this movie would just crush because I mean that's the target audience for me.
correct.
The U.S., like you're saying, I'm supporting what you're saying. The U.S., I don't know. This tough.
No,
Hey,
again, that's why
fun fact.
it's going to drop hard too. Like it got 67 this week. It's going to be 20 to 30 million next week, I guarantee it. Like it's going to
You
drop over 50%, which
on
is nuts.
IMDb, do you wanna know a fun fact?
Yeah.
So there's an uncredited SWAT team officer. His name is Michael K. Fox
Nice.
instead of Michael J. Fox. But he's been in nothing that I've ever seen before. But
Nice one. Well,
I
Pete,
love that name.
let's wrap this up. I
Wrap it
think
up.
we're just going to go in circles at this point. So, audience, hopefully this all made sense to you. You know,
If you love the franchise, you're gonna love this movie. If you don't know it, don't bother.
yeah, yeah. Or wait for streaming. Like I said, it's a good background movie too. Like it is what it is. So with that, so next week we got several films that are coming out. The number
Yes.
one film is Little Mermaid, Disney's Little Mermaid. Uh,
Right.
so that's gonna be the family audience right there. The second film, one I'm actually super looking forward to, is Kandahar. That's
Yep.
starring Gerard Butler and is directed by Rick Roman Waugh, who did Greenland and also did Angels Fallen. So they've worked
Right.
before. Gerard
Little bit
Butler,
of a reunion there.
yeah, as we said in our plane review, Gerard Butler has consistently just made solid action films. Again, if you want to talk about a guy that knows how to make an action film, it's Gerard Butler. I'm going to put my money on
Right.
that. So I'm
Well,
expecting good
I've been compared visually to obviously not 300 Gerard Butler, but more like a
yeah,
Greenland. Gerard Butler, very beautiful
absolutely.
face.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The third movie that's on tap is The Machine, which it stars Bert Kreischer, the comedian, and
Hmm.
it's basically a semi-autobiographical film about his college days, and so it looks super funny. Got a
And
good,
Mark Hamill.
yeah, Mark Hamill's in it, and then lastly, About My Father, starring Sebastian Maniscalco and Robert De Niro, among others. We'll see. Sometimes comedians in a starring role, and I guess this could apply to Burt Kreischer as well. Sometimes these work, sometimes they don't. So we'll
Right.
see. We'll have two good case studies on if these films work or they don't work.
And having Robert De Niro attached to you, that is not necessarily in a comedy going to elevate you, or it's not going to be a factor, right?
Like we already
you know,
have
meet
Joe
the
Coy.
meet the Fockers. Meet the Fockers, he crushed, right? And then there have been other movies where it didn't do so well.
But like I said, earlier in the year we had, or last year we had Joe Coy's Easter Sunday, and that was a mixed film. You know, it had moments, but also it was clunky. And so again,
Short.
sometimes when you have comedians doing kind of their first movie, you know, it's a lot of their stand-up, but it's this. Sometimes the story is and their acting can be a little rough, and so that'll be the interesting thing to look out for on both those films. So with that, Pete.
With that,
thanks for watching. Make sure you please like, subscribe, help us grow more and more. We'll keep bringing more and more great movies.
tell your friends.
Tell your friends. And with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.